Hello, welcome to the European Open briefing for Wednesday, August the 23rd. I'm Rafi Bajajan, currency analyst at XM.com, and we're going to be looking at what's happening in the currency markets today. So we're seeing the dollar a bit firmer this morning, although it has pared back some of those gains, sharp gains from yesterday. The dollar fell back slightly after remarks by US President Trump, who threatened a government shutdown if Congress doesn't approve funding for his proposed Mexican wall. The euro is firmer this morning, following stronger than expected flash PMIs out of the eurozone, and other notable movers include the New Zealand dollar. It fell sharply after the New Zealand government revised down its growth forecasts for the country, and oil is also under pressure again. This comes on the back of yesterday's API report, where we saw an unexpected increase in US gasoline stocks. But let's begin now with the US dollar. We can see there was a significant rebound yesterday in the greenback. Dollar index rose to 93.60. Dollar yen reached a near 1 week high of 109.82. It has slipped back to around 109.40. That came after US President Trump, speaking in Arizona, said that he wants he wants the Congress to provide funding for the Mexican wall. Otherwise, he's threatening to shut down the US government. Congress needs to approve a new spending bill by September 30. Otherwise, we could see a temporary shutdown of the US government if the debt ceiling isn't renewed or raised. Trump also threatened to terminate NAFTA if needed, and this once again has raised fresh concerns about Donald Trump's policies, just as when we were seeing an ebbing of risk aversion over North Korea tensions, as well as White House turmoil following those resignations we had in recent weeks. Despite all of that, though, the main focus this week is Jackson Hole, where central bankers around the world are gathering, including the Bank of Japan, ECB, and Fed heads. Bank of England head will not be attending this year, and that has led to some caution this week, although we're not expecting any major speeches from either Draghi or Janet Yellen. It's still the main focus given the quiet summer season we have at the moment. Gold prices have rebounded a little bit this morning, although they are well off last week's 9 months high when they briefly spiked about $1,300 an ounce. We did see a significant rebound in risk appetite yesterday and early this morning before Trump's comments. We saw US stocks. We can see the Dow Jones here rise sharply yesterday. But as I said, the focus will be on what's going to be said in Jackson Hole to get a better insight into monetary policy, both from the Fed as it's about to embark on balance sheet reduction plan, and the ECB, where it is widely expected that the ECB will start tapering its asset purchases at the beginning of next year, and that announcement should come sometime in the autumn. Moving on to European currencies, we can see both the euro and the pound have been following a similar pattern against the dollar, although overall the pound is under more pressure against the dollar as well as the euro. The euro was fairly steady around $1.1750, but it did rise quite sharply to around 1783 following the release of the flash PMIs out of the eurozone. We saw a much stronger than expected reading for the manufacturing PMI, although the services PMI was weaker. The composite PMI came in above expectations. The Draghi was speaking in Germany earlier today. That was also one of the main focus for this week, although he didn't really comment much on policy outlook, so this puts even more focus on what he could say at Jackson Hole. The pound, on the other hand, fell to a near 2-month low 1.2804 against the US currency. This pressure comes despite more clarity coming from the UK government on its position on Brexit. A number of papers have been published this week. More is expected. That process started last week. We're hearing more about proposed custom agreement, border controls, as well as over the legal stuff, whether or not the UK is going to remain under the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice. But there are doubts about the progress, the speed of the Brexit negotiations, as well as, and despite those propositions by the UK government, if none of it has been agreed by the European Union, it doesn't really mean anything. That's why the pound isn't really benefiting from all of those papers being published. Moving on to the New Zealand dollar, we can see it has fallen sharply over the past day. It's down almost 0.8% against the US dollar. It fell to 6-week low of 0.7213 earlier this morning. The government sharply revised down its forecast for the year ending June 2017 from 3.2% to 2.6% and from 3.7 to 3.5% in 2018. This could potentially impact monetary policy by the Reserve Bank of New Zealand. Despite that, the government is expecting a much bigger surplus for the current year, although they have said that they're not planning on cutting taxes, so that surplus doesn't seem to be having too much of an impact on growth, and that's why we're seeing the Kiwi fall. We have been seeing not necessarily weak, but perhaps not as strong as expected data out of the New Zealand. So that has reversed some of the outlook for the Kiwi, and therefore the RBNZ could be raising rates much later than expected. Looking at oil prices, we did have that big bounce on Friday, but yesterday we had profit taking, or rather on Monday we saw profit taking, and yesterday they fell after the US API report. Gasoline stocks in the United States rose unexpectedly last week. Expectations were for a 1 million drawdown. They were up by 1.4 million. This comes despite the fact that summer is supposed to be a busy driving season in the US, and gasoline stocks were up regardless. Crude stocks also fell by less than expected. WTI is currently down 0.4% on day, trading around $47.60 an ounce. The loonie has been pressured somewhat from the weaker oil prices, although the main impact on the loonie came from yesterday's retail sales figures from Canada. They were up 0.1% in June. Month-on-month expectations were for 0.3% increase, although core retail sales rose by stronger than expected. So overall, the outlook for the Canadian economy is rather positive, so that weakness in the loonie is most likely very temporary. Looking at today's economic calendar, we can see all the PMI numbers we've had so far this morning. The manufacturing sector appears to be doing very well in the Eurozone. The services, we are seeing perhaps slight weakness in August. We're going to have the US services and manufacturing PMIs out later, as well as new home sales and consumer confidence survey for the Eurozone. That's it from me. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day.